Hello and welcome to Helport AI Insights, your weekly insights into AI-powered customer contact. I'm your host, Toby Song, Director of Helport AI. We are an AI SaaS company aiming to empower everyone to deliver expert-level service. Each week, we're going to dive into some company updates along with other interesting facts about AI and its application within the customer contact space. So join us each week, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Well, hello. Welcome everybody to our first ever Helport AI podcast. We're calling this podcast Helport AI Insights. It's going to be a company podcast. We're going to post an episode every week with different guests within the company and also outside the company to join us. And we're going to discuss all things AI, customer contact, contact centers, BPOs, and how artificial intelligence is getting involved in this space and eventually going to have revolutionary change and into this area. And today I'm happy to welcome Darren to join us on our very first episode of the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Very excited to talk about AI and how it's changing everything, every industry.
it is, and it's inevitable, right? It's something that's happening if we like it or not. And we just need to jump on board and make sure we don't miss the train.
Exactly. Everybody seems to be talking about AI right now. It's the hottest topic out there, and a lot of people don't even know what it is still today. So
exactly, yeah. And I think there's actually a lot of misconception when it comes to AI as well. And I think the first thing that people think of nowadays is probably ChatGPT, right? Chatbots, AI replacing humans, and it's kind of this fear that is almost coming into everybody, especially in service providers who are essentially fearful of their jobs being replaced by AI. So I think there's a lot of misconception and fear that's being generated in this space. And hopefully throughout conversations that we're going to have on this podcast, one thing that we want to do is kind of clarify in terms of the real applications of AI, right? AI is this very broad term, and we want to kind of narrow it down in terms of how does AI actually impact our lives? More specifically, how does AI actually impact the customer contact space? Sure. So that's something that we, as a company, as Helport, we're obviously operated in, and we wanted to kind of bring more awareness to the space and also just get the conversation started. And hopefully we can be able to bring on different guests within different industries from different walks of life, and then chat, talk to them, pick their brains about their view on AI and how they think AI is going to affect not only their job, but their general lives moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've been speaking to several different people in different industries, and they are fearful, like you said, for their jobs.
Yeah.
Which, to me, it's silly because you have to be able to incorporate the AI with a human model. It's not really trying to replace it right now, but people are fearful that their jobs are just going to go away overnight, and that's just not the case. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
I think some of that is going to happen as AI is starting to automate and streamline some things, but more often than not, AI is here to kind of increase the efficiency of what we're doing already, right? It's not to come here to reinvent the wheel, and it's more so to help us be more efficient and more effective in what we are already doing. And then that's something that AI can do more immediately. Now, what it looks like in 5 years or 10 years, I couldn't tell you. I don't think anybody here is be able to say exactly what's going to happen in 10 years. We could be replaced by AI by then completely, sure. But at this very moment, I think that we are still at the point where AI is more so an assistant.
As long as it's not like the movies where AI takes over the world, and
there's no promises on that.
There's no Skynet taking over the world or anything like that.
Yeah, hopefully not. But I don't think anybody can tell you what AI looks like in 5 years. Sure. I don't think 10 years ago people could have predicted what it'd be at now. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
I was told the story, and I'm not sure the validity of it, but I was told that ChatGPT, when it first came out, and this was less than a year ago where it was launched to everybody, that it couldn't even add to 5. If you asked it to add or count to 5, it would be like 1, 2, 4, 7, and it had no idea how to even count to 5. So the fact that it's learning at such a rapid rate is amazing, but it still has so much more learning to do. OpenAI it's the hot topic right now, but there's a lot that AI still needs to learn to become self-aware.
Sure. And there's a lot that goes into kind of generative AI and large language models, because like you said, those are the hot topics at the moment. That's what ChatGPT is operating out of. But in reality, Gen AI as a tech by itself, it's been around for quite a long time. It's just that as technology catch up in the sense of computing power and efficiency and the amount of data that we're able to acquire, I think that's what brought ChatGPT into the form that it is today.
Sure.
The actual tech behind it, it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So, but that was a longer drawn out intro. It's our first episode, but we're just getting started here. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's discussion, I wanted to kind of give a brief background and introduction to our company.
Sure.
Right, since this is the very first episode. So, a little bit about HP AI, Helport AI. We are an AI SaaS company. We like we mentioned earlier, we are specialized in the customer contact space. So we are not a fully automated chatbot in a sense to completely replace the service agent. We are here to essentially assist the human agents, assist any humans that is having a conversation with a client, to give them the expert knowledge within their field, within their own company, give them the knowledge that's going to be the most relevant to help them and guide them through a conversation as they're on the phone with a client. And this could be phone conversations, it could be text conversations, email chains. We specialize in phone conversations, and that's where most of our clients lie, but we can also handle text and email and other forms of communication as well.
Sure.
So what our software do essentially is we generate a knowledge base based on the most relevant knowledge within your own company. And these are answers to questions that these agents are facing every single day. These are certain product knowledge that are relevant within the company. These are promotions that's happening. These are upsell opportunities, right? How do you communicate with the client? How do you pitch this product to the client? How do you handle client objections, rebuttals? How do you keep the client on the phone? All of this very precious knowledge is something that you're not going to be able to find on the internet. ChatGPT is not going to be able to tell you how your company operates. It doesn't know because it's not out there, right? That's what we want to do is you want to take your company information and essentially how do you train your service providers? How do you train your agents? How do you train your salesperson? How do you train your customer service agents? And the material you use to train them, you take the top behaviors of the top agents, and we want to give all that data. We want to take all that knowledge and we want to give that to everybody else. So our company model is, empower everybody to deliver expert level service. What we want to do is not to replace a human, but you want to turn a human into experts, right? You want to turn them into superhumans. Essentially, in turn, that's going to streamline your business. That's going to reduce the amount of people you're going to need because you're going to be able to increase the efficiency of the people you have now. So in a way, it will kind of replace some humans down the road, but it is not a direct replacement of your entire workforce.
Sure.
So yeah, with that being said, I'm sure that we're going to get into more details on how the software actually works down the road, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to talk about that. Today, since we have Darren here, we wanted to talk a little bit about maybe get to know Darren a little bit and how you're involved with the company and kind of your background experience, because you have an impressive background within the mortgage industry. And the mortgage industry is an area that we are very focused on as well, because I know that there's a lot of applications that we can have to kind of help streamline processes within this industry. So maybe let's dive into a little bit, maybe introduce yourself a little bit, and in terms of where did you come from in your career, and how did you get into the mortgage industry in the first place?
Sure. So I've been in the mortgage industry since 2002. And I came straight out of college. I went through a management training program for a very large lender at the time that was a nationwide lender. So they taught us everything about how to, not to go into too much details, but they taught us the whole industry over a 9-month training program and then put us out as sales guys. But
wow.
Since then, I've been in this industry a couple of different facets. I've run my own broker shop everywhere from Hawaii to California. I'm on the real estate side as well. I've done commercial real estate and large projects out here in California. But I've just been doing it for so long, and I've seen the ups and downs of it since I've been here since 2002. I've seen it's a cyclical industry. So everything happens. Like everybody knows about the crash that started in 2008, went all the way to 2010. I was in Hawaii at the time. Our company was doing really well. But we just started seeing all the doors close on each level. And we were like, what is going on here? Yeah. All the major companies, our major competitors just started going out of business. And it was scary. It was a very scary time. The nation was crazy. They had to come out with new, like the Dodd-Frank Act, and they just really had to regulate how our industry was and how much it changed overnight. So that being said, fast forward to now, everything's back to, I won't say normal, but there's a lot of business going on. There's a lot of large lenders out there. But it's unbelievable to see like how things have changed. Like we used to send faxes back in the day. I mean, no lie. Yeah. And now to see like all the technology that's out there, like you could take a loan application in 2 seconds on a website and just send it out to people. They fill it out and it just transfers into a lending platform that just takes the application, takes all the income documents in, and could actually process and underwrite the whole loan to where sometimes it doesn't even have to touch a human.
Sure.
But we still have our, underwriters, loan processors, everything like that. So, that's a little bit of background on me and like how I've seen the industry go up and down. It's been a fun ride and a scary ride at the same time. But now I see like the power of AI and how it could change this industry. Everything you were just saying about taking your sales guys and making them superstars by using the AI software, like combined with the humans to just produce super account executives or super loan officers out there by giving them that knowledge base. It's pretty intense. So very interesting stuff.
And this is actually, it's very interesting topic for me because I personally have a little bit of mortgage background as well. Kind of similar to you. Actually, my first job out of college was at a mortgage firm. I was working at a mortgage firm out in Michigan. And I remembered, kind of going through a similar. I didn't go through a whole 9 month of training program like you did because I was more on the loan officer side. But I went through that initial training, and I was very quickly. I think at our company, our boss wanted me to kind of get out there and experience and get used to talking to people on the phone. So very quickly, he put me on the phone with these cold calling these leads, and that was kind of my first experience ever in my career to cold call people. And I remember that was pretty eye-opening, right? It's like, okay, like I had all the answers in front of me. I studied the rebuttals, what do you say in different situations, and then you get on the phone for the first time and you're just like a deer in headlights. And then you all of a sudden you forget all the training and you just kind of freeze up, right? I'm normally, I would say I'm pretty good on the phone and talking to people, but even then it's like the moment you first get on the phone, it is nerve-wracking, right? If it's something that you've never experienced before.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I think that's probably something similar that a lot of the new, not the very experienced loan officer, but the newer loan officers will probably face on a day-to-day basis. Whereas they get on the phone with the client, and sometimes the client asks them a certain questions regarding the mortgage industry or regarding a certain loan program, where they like, I swear I had this in the back of my head or I knew the answer to this, but then like in the moment they just like, I cannot pull it up. I don't remember it. Right. And how many times, I mean, interesting to see the stat for if you go to any brokerage shop or you go to a lender and you ask them, do you know the stat on how many times a day do your loan officers have to say, hey, Mr. Johnson, let me put you on a brief hold, right? How many times a day do they have to do that? I think, if they actually calculate that, the number is pretty staggering.
Sure. Or even get off the phone and say, I'll have to call you back.
I have to call you back.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you can't get that back on the phone.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, let me. I'm gonna give my account executive a quick call, and I'm gonna call you right back. Right. Exactly. I think even putting the client on hold, even just outside of mortgage, just any sort of sales role, so statistics have shown that if you do that, even if 2 times on the call, that deal is over.
Sure.
If you put the client on hold for more than once, right? If you put it on two times on the phone, the success rate on those calls are less than 0.5%.
Yeah, because then the client does not see you as an industry expert.
Exactly.
They're just like, this guy's just putting me on hold 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I could see that for sure. So it affects your efficiency rate immediately if you cannot give them a fast answer and you don't know, you're not an expert in your field and you don't have the knowledge base to answer the questions right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so much in sales that we've known now, it's not just about what you know. Is about how you deliver it and also how does the client perceive you.
Exactly.
Right. If you can make the client feel like you are an expert and you are the best in the industry and you know absolutely everything about the industry, that client is going to choose you more times than not, even if you have a slightly higher rate. Right.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I think building that trust with the client, building that relationship with the client is very crucial. I think in any sort of sales or customer service role.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's, aligns with kind of our philosophy within our company is what we're trying to do with the software. We want to provide the agent in real time with all the knowledge that they need, right? All the industry knowledge, all the product knowledge, mortgage knowledge, even lender knowledge, right? We talked a little bit about the loan officers that you work with, they might work with 50 different lenders at the same time. And it's impossible, even for the best loan officer out there in the country, impossible for them to remember every single loan program that these lenders offer.
Right.
And I believe that these loan programs also change as well. The guidelines change, the rate sheet change, sometimes on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, they sure do.
So I don't know if you, out of your experience, the loan officers you work with, what is kind of their current system in keeping track of all that information?
I mean, honestly, they're just using like a typical CRM, maybe doing follow-up campaigns inside of like Salesforce or LendingPad or something like that, to where they might be sending out text messages. They might be, following up through videos and doing like, they have some technologies out there to where it's a decent follow-up, but nothing, when they have the person on the call, there's nothing there besides scripts that they could memorize, which you know how those go.
Sure.
I mean, they fumble around with those all the time. Or just like you said, putting people on hold or having to call them back. I've seen, even being in the field as an account executive myself in the past, I've seen many times where I had to actually say, I'll have to call you back. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. So I have to call my regional manager and I will get back to you with an answer.
Yeah.
Well, guess what that loan officer is doing? He's going out and calling 2 other AEs at the same time while I'm trying to get back to him.
Yeah.
And if he gets the answer from them, first to the table usually wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we've never had a tool where, like Helport with AI, to where we could instantly pull up the guidelines based off of questions and have that assist right there, to where we could answer questions right on the spot, and to have, notes in the system and everything like that, to where you could literally just any question they ask you could actually provide answers to in real time. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think kind of ties into the next question I was going to ask you, because a little background on how we met. We met through a mutual person, and at first we were just trying to kind of introduce the software to, and then as an expert within the mortgage lending side of things, we wanted to see if you see any application within this industry and potentially refer some client to us. And I think throughout getting to know the product and actually demonstrating it to you, you saw the value in it and you saw so much potential within the industry, right? You decided to join us full time.
Yes.
So I think maybe talk a little bit about what did you see, right? What potential you see an application like this within lending, right? Kind of from the lender point of view, and where do you see the software going and leading in this industry?
Sure. I mean, so the applications that I think that will be the most successful in the mortgage industry is number one, the knowledge base. Like you said earlier, just being able to have different guidelines pull up from different lenders. So, and just the power of like loan officers being able to pull that knowledge up while they're on the phone with the end borrower, because that's huge for them. The fact that you can monitor employees and increase efficiency by literally monitoring what they're saying, at what time they're saying it, and being able to step in when they're giving wrong answers or when they're fumbling their words, like I just did. And just literally be able to chime in and say, hey, this is what you should say at this time, or, tell them this, and then have things pop up that the manager could actually type in, and it just pops up, hey, say this right now. I mean, that's huge. I mean, the technology has not been there for us to do that whatsoever in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
What other applications? I just love that you could actually tag people for what they're saying. Like if they're asking for a DSCR loan, it tags them. If they're a first-time home buyer, it tags them. And then the AI is so intuitive that it learns from each conversation. And then the next conversation you have where something similar pops up, the answers just get smarter and smarter.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where do I see this going? I see this changing our whole industry and industries like this. It's just going to make people smarter. It's going to give them more knowledge. It's going to increase volume for the lenders that actually jump on board now.
Sure.
Right. So I hate to say it, but some of these lenders who do not take AI seriously will be obsolete down the road.
Yes.
Because your competitors are going to have AI knowledge bases that they're using. Their salespeople are going to be better. It's going to increase their volume. They're going to do more business with loan officers, and they're going to just take more market share in that industry because they are using AI and companies like us, Helport. So
that's a great point. And obviously we absolutely agree with that. AI is a train that you have to hop on. And if you're not adapting to the changing in the industry, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah,
And I think
100%.
the mortgage industry is no different than any other industry. So I think AI technology is coming, and it's just about being. I would say we're still in the early adopters, right? I would say AI, even though it's such a hot topic, if you think about the application of AI in our everyday lives, right now, ChatGPT can write an email for you, right? There's a lot of AI that can do, draft an email. They can help you generate a picture, right? They can help you write an essay. But if you think about actually AI being applied in the business setting, we're early adopters. I don't think there's that many AI applications out there that is actually very effective, whereas it's changing the way businesses are working, right?
Sure.
I think you're seeing a lot of ads about Gen AI and Copilot from Microsoft, ChatGPT that's coming in. There's a lot of applications right now that are built on top of ChatGPT. Again, we use ChatGPT every single day for a lot of our applications. I think it's a tremendously powerful product, but it doesn't mean that can apply into every single situation. So I think as of right now, we want to work with mortgage companies, right, within mortgage industry that can come in and adopt this technology and be one of the early adopters to jump on this train and really gain that competitive advantage before everybody else really catches on, because eventually everybody else will catch on. And this is something that if you're not catching on, you're gonna get left behind. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think you touched on a good point earlier. I just wanted to hark back on that, is the tagging situation, right? The tagging feature. So throughout the conversation, back when I was working as a loan officer, I remember I would have a piece of paper, kind of the same form that it's like a client intake form.
Yeah. And
I'll print that form out every single time before talking to a client. And then as I'm on the phone with them, I'm putting in this information by hand, right? This client is 1099, or this client is Social Security, right? This client wants to refinance, or he wants to buy a house. Is it a first home, or is it a retirement home? Is this a residential? Is this a commercial project? So all of this I am putting in by hand on this kind of client intake form.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, if I spoke to, like, say 25 different clients, right? Then I got a stack of papers.
It's hard to keep track.
It's hard to keep track. Yeah. And then I want to maximize my day throughout the day to be on the phone. So I'm not inputting any of that information into the system during the day. I'm trying to get myself on the phone with the client 24/7. And then when I get home, that's when I get the stack of paper and I go onto our CRM. We use Encompass. I don't know if you guys use Encompass, and then I will put all that information into the system one by one, by hand.
People are still using Encompass. It's crazy.
I'm sure it is. And what we want to do is, again, we are not a CRM. So we are not looking to replace Encompass. We're not a dialing platform. So we're not looking to replace Ring Central, for example, right? But we can automate the process of how that data gets entered into the system. Like you said, throughout the conversation, the system is picking up all these information or these characters about the client. So everything that I used to write down by hand, the system is automatically pulling that information out and is creating these tags to characterize this client. If this client is W-2, is it full-time working, part-time job, all of these things, it's pulling the data out and then it's streamlining it and entering it into the CRM that the client's using.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So this just that alone, it's going to save loan officers hours a day if I had that back in the day. And then it goes the other way around too, right? You get a client on the phone and the client calls. If all that information about that client is going to be already in their CRM, our system is going to know that. And it's going to be able to inform the client inform the loan officer on what to do based on who that client is already. So now I don't have to go through my stack of paper and try to find that client and then look through it just to remember, because you're not going to remember every single client, right? Yeah. If you have 200 clients on your pipeline, one of them randomly calls, you're not going to know, oh, this person is looking to buy a house, in San Diego, and he's retired, or he's a W-2. You're not going to remember all that information.
Exactly.
So being able to automatically pull that information out of the CRM, the system's going to know all that information. So, what the system is doing, like we touched on earlier, just to harp on it, is that it's going to generate knowledge. It's going to pull knowledge out of the knowledge base, and it's going to give guidance to the loan officers or the account executives in real time as they're on the phone with the client. So, for example, if the client calls and asks, hey, how much down payment do I need on this property? Then the system is going to give them an answer, right? But if it doesn't know who this client is, it's not going to give the correct answer.
Right.
So that's why it's very important for the system to understand not only what we're talking about, not only what the question is, but it has to understand who is asking that question. That's what, one of the features that I think makes us really unique and stand out.
Sure.
Versus I think some of the other similar softwares that are trying to do so-called agent assist. I think the word agent assist is being used more and more nowadays. Especially if we both just went to the convention in Vegas, right? The customer contact week, CCW Vegas, and there were like 300, 400 booths there. It was incredible amount of people there. And I think we heard the word agent assist probably like 100 times, right?
More than that.
But
it's crazy.
But it's, I think I'm sure in future episodes, we're going to dive more into details on exactly what agent assist entails and what's effective and what's not effective. And what is, how does your company, how did any company, what is the best way for them to adopt something like this and get started, and something that's actually going to be proven to improve their KPIs, improve their numbers. So we're definitely excited to talk about that. But today, I think, we want to focus on the mortgage industry.
Sure.
And I think that working together, and I know that we already have some plans in what we're going to do in the mortgage industry. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see where this space goes.
I can't wait. Honestly, it's gonna change how everybody does business in this industry. If you just imagine like loan officers using the same platform, and they can have at a push of a button all the answers they need to not have to hound the AE as much as they do. Right. It does two things. The LO can drum up more business because they don't have to call the AE so many times. The AE could call more loan officers, so they're drumming up more business on the lending side.
Yeah,
and that's all it is. In the mortgage industry, it's very simple. They want more loans, they want more closed loans, more revenue, and they want to be doing business with more loans. So if this technology will allow that to happen, and the sooner that the lenders and the broker shops get on board with it, they're going to see how powerful these tools can actually be.
100%. 100%.
And then, down the road, like with AI, I mean, very exciting stuff, and, coming out soon, possibly, to where the loan officer or the AE could actually clone themselves and be reaching out to 4 or 5 brokers at the same time. I mean, as scary as that is, I'm seeing it happening already in other industries, but now we're going to bring that to the mortgage industry, and that's a no-brainer in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you just touched on. It's our kind of new feature that we're coming out with, and it's the cloning, right? We already kind of clone the behavior of top agents, and we're providing that behavior. We're giving that knowledge to everybody else, right? But now, with AI's, we call it AI speech, where AI can actually clone individual's voice, and it will respond to the client in your voice, and it's pretty accurate. And if you have a knowledge base built up, instead of just giving that knowledge to the agent, we can actually respond in the agent's voice for the agent automatically. Then this is where we can actually, again, we're still not directly replacing them, because at the end of the day, I don't believe that AI is at a point where the AI can do everything on its own without human supervision, especially if you're using it in a business setting, in a sales setting. The conversation can go in so many different ways, especially in a mortgage setting.
Sure.
I'm sure that you've had I'm sure in general, the conversation is the same flow, but I'm sure you have client that's out of the left field or talk about something completely different. So, the AI is not going to be able to capture all of that knowledge and be able to respond in the most correct way. So there is still a sense of human involvement where the human needs to oversee the AI. So our idea here is, even though the AI can clone your voice, and the AI is going to be responding in your voice to the client based on the knowledge that it has, if the conversation ever goes beyond the scope of AI's knowledge, which it will, the human can cut in and take over the conversation. And as a client, you're not going to know if you're talking to the human or the AI. And that's okay, because you're essentially always talking to the human, because the human's monitoring that, right? The worst thing that you can give to a client is, I don't know when's the last time you called a company and it's just a robot on the phone, and then it's just frustrating because you keep asking the same thing over and over again.
I did that yesterday with a credit card company.
It's a brutal experience, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's giving almost a bad rep to automation, right? Bad rep to AI, because that's what people think of when they think about, oh my God, I don't want to talk to an AI on the phone. I just want to talk to a human.
Right.
And that's exactly why that's not the direction that we are going down. And I think the way that we are doing it, it's always a human behind it. So as soon as the system senses that the AI is beyond its scope, the human is going to cut in and take over that call. So we're still maintaining that contact and that human connection, and making sure that every client is taken care of.
I think that makes a lot of the people in the mortgage space feel safe still, that your jobs aren't in jeopardy yet, but
yeah, right. We just want to make you better at your job, right? We want to give you more confidence. Think about my first day on the job when I was working in the LO, that kind of deer in headlight feeling. We don't want anybody else to feel that, right? We think that even as a new LO, day one on the job, with the assist of our software, right, with the knowledge base and the real-time guidance that is going to give the agent no longer have to feel like they're fearful of what's coming because they don't know what to say. Because even if they don't know what to say, the system is going to tell them what to say. So essentially, it's like having your manager, we always say it's like having your guide or your manager, your mentor, standing behind your shoulder, and it's listening to your conversation, and it's telling you what to do, what to say at all times on every single one of your calls. So, that's very, very powerful. And then we want everybody to be training. The required knowledge to start is going to be way less, right? The baseline is very, very low. We want to give this opportunity to everybody that's out there, irrespective of kind of their background, because we're giving them the knowledge, right? The other thing is giving them more confidence on the phone because they know that they're going to get the assistance. They're no longer scared to get on the phone, right? So that's something that's going to be very powerful. And the other side of that is, you touched on a little bit, is kind of managing the agents or managing the loan officers in this case. Traditionally, I don't know how the company I worked at, there wasn't really any supervision on what the loan officer is saying. The loan officers really have free reign into saying whatever they want.
Yep. There still really isn't that much supervision.
There really isn't. I mean, some brokers will record the calls, maybe. Even when they do, they're not doing much with it after the fact. Right. So I think with what we're trying to do, obviously, we're not just in the mortgage industry. A lot of other industries that we're in are financial industries like banks and insurance companies. And these companies, compared to the mortgage industry, they're even more strict on what the agents can say and cannot say. So what the system is doing, what we call automated quality assurance, where it's just capturing everything. Because it's capturing everything the agent's saying, it's also monitoring what they're saying, and it's alerting the agent when they make mistakes. Right? I know one of the most frequently made mistakes that were happening was when I was working there, before you had your license, you can't quote interest rate. And I know that this gets a lot of companies in trouble, because when the client is just hounding you for an interest rate, like, just tell me what rate you can offer me. I don't care about everything else, right? And sometimes these openers or these unlicensed agents, they were just trying to draw the client in. They're forced to kind of give that answer, or they don't know how to respond at that point.
Sure, and they get nervous. They spit out rates.
Exactly. Yeah. So our system essentially, by telling them what to say, we're preventing them from making that mistake. But if they do make that mistake, the system is gonna catch that.
Red flag them.
Red flag it. They're gonna know they made a mistake, and then also is gonna let the supervisor know that they made a mistake, right? So there's a lot, I think, that we can go into in terms of the processes that we can improve. But for today, I think that that's mostly what we're gonna cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does sound like there's a lot more that we can talk about here, so we'll have to bring you back for another episode. I think the one thing we didn't even have time to touch on today was how do we utilize BPO agents overseas in the Philippines to do lead generation, to some of the back-end processes. And that's something that we work closely with. We have BPO partners around the world, and we work closely with, and we actually been doing that for a couple of companies here in the U.S. So that's something that we're excited to talk about, and probably in one of the future episodes.
I think we could do a whole episode on that one topic. So
100%.
Let's save some for later.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Darren. In our very first episode, and we're getting to grips with this whole podcast thing, so we're gonna get better and better at it. But the idea is every single week we're gonna push out a new episode, and potentially on different industries and applications of AI, and just AI in general. I think, like we said, there's a lot of misconceptions of AI, and I think that we want to maybe educate in a way with everybody in terms of what the real application of AI is, to kind of alleviate some of the fear that people have around AI, and kind of see the potential of it and how it can actually bring benefits, enhancements to their daily lives.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to bringing AI out to everybody and every industry out here. So
perfect. Well, thank you so much. Next week we're going to have our CFO, Tao Tao could join us, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth in terms of kind of our company plans and more on the finance side where all this is going. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week.